All right, so we are officially started.
Okay, well, welcome to the webinar promoting social media and engagement. Um, my name is Carrie, and I've taught one course at Bay Path in the spring. Maura hired me to teach a general biology course, and I recently finished up a training on Canvas, and I'm currently teaching my second course, same biology class. And I'm really interested in trying to work in social media to promote more student engagement in the classroom, especially when you get into your like higher risk classes where there might be a lot of enrollment, a lot of dropout, things like that. I think that social media is a way that you can kind of keep some of these students on task, especially if you can bring it into your classroom. I think there's a lot of benefits tied to social media in the classroom. I think it allows for more exploring of options. They can explore more freely what they want to look at. If you assign various blogs, they can pick and choose what they might want as long as it applies to what we're learning in the classroom. Same with a Facebook conversation group. You can explore more options. You get to hear more students' opinions, see what they're looking at. Maybe one link will take them to another link. And then also with Twitter. I think Twitter is a great way to communicate and explore more professionals and just collaborate overall. I think another benefit to social media is gaining information related to learning concepts in the class. So, if we're covering genetics in week 2, then there can be a social media blog or a social media Facebook site or a Twitter link that they can further discuss this. I think it's a way that they can connect with classmates and faculty, both inside the classroom. I'll talk a little bit how to bring the social media into the classroom in a little bit, but they can connect with them outside of the classroom on the Facebook site or on the Twitter site, or even blogging. I think it's also a good way for students to learn what sites are good. And when I say good, I teach science, so they need to be scholarly sources that they're looking for. And being an instructor, you can provide them with, good scholarly sources of information, and that can kind of pave the way for good habits for them to study and look up information. It can also link our library to the site, so you can like incorporate the library into, finding information that they can share on a blog maybe. I think it's also a good way to hear opinions on current events of established professionals. So again, it's a way to collaborate, make connections, um, things like that. The 3 social media sites that I'm interested in bringing to Canvas are Facebook in the form of like a closed group, Twitter, where you would have a hashtag inserted into the learning management system, and then also blogging, where you would give an option for students to choose a blog that we would assign. So again, I think the more options that students have, especially the older students, which we'll get to in a minute, I think that they tend to do better because they feel like it's kind of up to them to choose something instead of you telling them they have only one option. When they're given more options, they tend to do better, I think, and explore more. I have used Facebook, I've used Twitter, and I've used blogging in my courses, but never in the Canvas learning management system. I know that Sakai, I've done a lot with the Sakai tools, and we can easily put those into the system, and it seems like there's a way to do it with Canvas as well. Um, Looking at Facebook and Twitter, let me get rid of this. I think if students were to participate once a week in a Facebook conversation group, and I went into Facebook today and I created this mock, the All Women College Biology Conversation Facebook page, and you can see right here, there's like a link. The class that I use Facebook in, what students can do is they can actually click this right here and it takes them right to the biology conversation page. So they do not need to like log into Facebook. They don't need to go through all of that. They do have to have an account, but with the Facebook account with the class, it could be closed or private, however, we would set that up. Um, I think that students could also have the option of submitting a link on Twitter with a note about the article, of interest that pertains to the materials that we're studying that week in the class. Postings have to be about current research, so it's going to teach students to find current information, and by that I mean maybe within the last 3 years, depending on the discipline. So I just came up with a mock hashtag, again, hashtag TAWC Biology. So, and again, you know, if you go into Twitter, you can somehow incorporate this hashtag, I'm sure, into Canvas. So again, a student in this case wouldn't even need to have a Twitter account. They would just click on the hashtag in the classroom and it would take them to all of the postings on this hashtag related to biology, and again, whatever the topic of the week may be. And so they can read, you know, what other people are posting. They can, you know, converse with students outside of the classroom that way. The next thing was blogging. These are blogs that I've used in the past. TED blogs are great, covers a wide variety of disciplines. Students have the option of selecting a blog for the duration of the course. Now that's the thing, you know, if they say, oh, I'm going to do Facebook, you know, it would be nice if they stayed with Facebook for the entire 6 weeks. Or if they chose Twitter, stay with Twitter for the entire 6 weeks. Or if they did blogging. But maybe one week they want to blog, another week they want to Facebook. So, I mean, how would you kind of monitor that? Scientific American is another great blogging site. And the reason you saw the TED Talk is because, whoops, I'm going to show you this. So if this were the blog that I had in my class, students would click on it and they would have all these different blogs that they can see. But if they went, you know, if you assigned this and they picked a title where they could do a search, but they would have to discuss something or comment on something that is related to the course material. Once the student has commented on that, I think that they should, well, in the past, I've had them email me, let me know which blog they chose so that I can go in and I can comment on them too. Again, this is all outside of the classroom, but if this could somehow be incorporated into a discussion board module, whether it's a weekly basis or a social media module, that's something that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. One of the emails that went out about the reminders for the webinar, how old, you know, is old when it comes to emailing versus social media. I agree. I think that old people do not partake in social media, but at the same time, you know, what defines old? According to the Pew Internet Study, students who participated in focus groups said they view email as something you use to talk to old people. So Trey kind of relayed that to us in the email, and then Paul chimed in and said, well, what does old mean? Well, I found this article with the Pew Research on the evolving role of news on Twitter and Facebook, where a lot of students that I guess are under 65, you could say, are getting their news that way. Let me see. Clear majorities of Twitter, 63%. Facebook users, 63%. Their major source of getting the news is on these social media sites. So if you can bring that into the classroom, I think it's a really great way to not only engage them in the current events, but you can engage them with other students to talk about, you know, some of these issues. So this was kind of interesting. You know, that was in the news. Let me see, go back here. Faculty concerns, though, with promoting social media. Are you guys seeing this, or am I still on TED?
No, faculty concerns is on.
Okay,
faculty
good.
Concerns is on.
Okay. You know, so I started playing around with Canvas a little bit, and I found within the settings that there is an App Center. Does anybody use the App Center in Canvas? I'll take that as a no.
Carrie, this is Mara. I'm not familiar with it.
I'm not
Okay.
either.
Well, I found it. I guess it has been incorporated. It's a, let me see, Canvas recently introduced a new page design called the new Canvas user interface. Depending on your Canvas view, your page design. And what I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to pull that up classroom and just show you some of the different apps that were on there. Twitter was on there, YouTube was on there. You can put these links into the classroom to give students easy access to them. Right here, how can I incorporate an app to enhance student learning? I'm going to downsize this, and I am going to pull up my classroom. Whoops. Let's see, my classroom. Thought I had it. Oh, right here. So bear with me a second. Well, no, it's not going to let me. All right, let me get into my BayPath account. I'll show you. Does everybody see my classroom?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so right here is the setting option. So if I click on settings and you go across this navigation panel, there's an apps link. All these apps can be incorporated into Canvas. And
Wow.
I was like, this is awesome. But how to do that? I'm not sure. I played around with it a little bit. I don't have a mock classroom per se, and I didn't want to screw up the classroom I'm teaching now. Kaltura, that's a great way of introducing video. But where is my, I'm looking for the Twitter. Look at all these.
Looks like it's alphabetical.
QRS. There's TED Ed. There's Turn It In. So here's a Twitter right here. So I played around with it a little bit. It says it's installed, but I don't know how you put it over here. You know, I'm afraid that I'm going to screw it up. I didn't know if you were aware of this. I'm glad that you're not aware of it, but it's here, and it can be. I think it would be a great learning tool if we could figure out how to put that into the course. So Twitter was there. It's live streaming. I don't know if that's an option where you can live stream, you know, information on a TED Talk into the classroom, or if it's not live streaming. So that's something else that, you know, could be looked at. Let me go back.
One thing, Carrie, if I can just say something. Can you hear me? It's Mara.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to have a new navigation link added on that left-hand navigation bar myself. It may be that there are certain privileges, levels of privileges, like a systems administrator may need to be the one, you know, to do that kind of thing. It's certainly something that I can talk to folks about when I'm back in the office next week, you know, after the holiday. And then the other thought I had is, what were you just talking about more recently? I forget. It'll come back to me, but it might have been something related to like administrator privileges or that kind of thing. I'll explore that option.
Because, and you know, if you go into this external apps, it says which ones are not installed and which ones are installed. And because I installed Twitter, but I can't find it, it's showing me that it's installed. Turn It In is also installed, and I know the assignments, they go through the Turn It In, so you just don't see it in the navigation panel, so it must be hidden somewhere. So yeah, I mean you must have to have certain privileges then to access that. You know, so that I think that would be something to explore. That would at least give students easy access to the social media sites. Maybe there's a way of incorporating. I did not see Facebook as one of the external apps, but maybe there's a way of, you know, going around that where they, you know, you can put the Facebook group into the classroom. They could click on it. They would log in. But again, the settings would have to be private, where you know, people can only see the face. You know, you can't see their personal profiles. The name of the student in the class must match the name of the student in the Facebook group. So if there's like a situation with a weird last name, you have to confirm that. So it would have to somehow be monitored. Um, in terms of bringing, yeah,
I just wanted to say, you can always, even if you can't add this other stuff, you can always add a link. In the
yes,
announcement section
always
or
add a
somewhere
link
else.
for it.
So, that's always an option if you want to get them to explore that.
Okay, well, so in terms of, doing that, adding a link into the classroom, what would your thoughts be? I mean, would this be something that would be offered as extra credit? Would it be something that would be offered for credit? Would it be a social media link giving students the option each week of a blog, a Facebook, or a Twitter? Once a student picks one, they have to stick with it throughout the duration of the course. Can they switch around? So like setting it up in the modules as a discussion, I think would be a great way of bringing that social media into the classroom, where the students would have to discuss what they posted. I don't know how that would happen, because with the classes that I taught using social media, they were extra credit, and what the students had to do was submit a report outlining what they did on Facebook, what they did on Twitter, and I knew what they did blogging because I had to go in and reply to them and blog with them. And they would get extra credit assigned, but they had to document on a weekly basis what they did, where they put it, how I could access it. So there could be some way of incorporating this as a discussion, I think, with other students, collaborating. I also found another interesting tool in Canvas. Let me see. Right here, you can add external tools. And I found this. This seemed a little bit different than the App Center. So I don't know if it's the same or something different. If you look at the second picture I have right here, I found Twitter, where you can embed that. So that seems to be different than the App Center. I went into week one, I was like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and try and do this, and it asked me if I wanted to embed Twitter. Well, I was afraid to do it because I don't know what it's going to do to my classroom, or if it's going to even let me do it. So, it seems like there is the option to put this in the classroom, have students discuss topics related to what we're doing in week one in the social media realm, and then bring that into the classroom for more conversation. It would have to be maybe a discussion with a classmate that's at least 75 words or more. There has to be questions asked of the students. There has to be feedback. They can't just say, oh, great post, I agree. There has to be some kind of critical thinking, feedback, skills being used, and then the students would be graded based on a specific grading rubric. But I think social media would be fun. One of the problems that I've had, though, with some students as an extra credit option, they're like, we have so much other stuff that we have to do in the class and trying to figure out the classroom. We don't have time to do social media. So trying to eliminate that fear in students and also in faculty. This is just the collaboration that I was going to mention. That, like, how do you engage the students and the faculty if they're just not sure, how to use the media? This was another site that I found in Canvas. I don't know how many of you have used the collaboration with Google Docs. Has anybody used that?
I have not.
No?
No.
Okay, well, I've used Google Documents before, where, meet professionally, just like sharing a document and everybody can kind of mark it up. Maybe there is a Twitter link that somebody posted and a couple other students in the discussion are like, wow, this is really, really great. Maybe there's a way that you can incorporate an assignment based on a weekly topic that students would create a paper, work collaboratively. You can break them into, 4 or 5 students. They would write this paper based on the social media topic. They could share it amongst themselves. That could be incorporated as a project, maybe like a final project for the classroom. As an assignment. But I saw this collaboration where you can collaborate Google Docs. So that's already in Canvas. Again, how to access that, get rights to it, I'm not sure. And then the last thing I kind of had for everybody, questions. But most of the faculty concerns, where's my last? Well, faculty concerns that I've heard on phone calls, faculty are afraid to use social media because they don't know how to do it themselves. I don't know what your thoughts are, if that's something that scares you or other faculty because you don't want to maybe take the time out to do Twitter or, create a hashtag, or is that extra work? How do you do it? Is there support? Because there is not a lot of support from the social media sites. It's kind of, figuring out what's going to work as an instructor, and if there's a problem, the instructor for the most part has to go in and kind of figure it out, unless you have like an IT department that can, offer training programs to faculty on how to use Facebook in the classroom, how to use Twitter, how to blog. That might depend on the age of the faculty as well. If you've got the old school faculty that just don't want to do that, or I don't know. So I was kind of looking for suggestions, input pertaining to that.
Well, one thing that comes to mind for me, Carrie, is that some of our students, well, actually it's the advisors, the educator coaches, have started virtual learning communities, or I think they're at the beginning stages with that. So VLCs, they call them virtual learning communities, and they're in Facebook. And I think they have to do with questions like, when are the courses going to be open, or one time does a bookstore, or has anybody ordered through Amazon? How much faster can you get your books? Or, those kinds of questions, more logistics questions than actual, curriculum and content. But I wonder if there's a way. Your whole presentation has made me wonder if there can be a bridge to the virtual learning communities that they've already built, or a way to use those. So that's just a thought. I guess my reluctance as an instructor with social media is, I'm sure I could figure out how to use the sites, but how do you make them college level learning worthy, and then how do you assess them with a rubric of some sort? You know what I mean? And you bounced out some ideas, but those have been my thoughts. I think we're all familiar with grading a 5-page paper. We know what that looks like. We know what a rubric for it would be like, what we would be looking for in a rubric and building it, but it's a little more esoteric, I guess, for me to think about, well, how would a student use a Twitter account for, a grade or that kind of thing. So anyway, those are just my thoughts. Some questions, not a lot of answers.
So I guess, the detail in the rubric, then how would that be graded would be something to focus on. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Right. It's well, you said, do we use it, and if not, why? And I think that would be my first thought. Yeah, my hurdle.
One idea I've heard from another expert in social media was you can't just use it for the sake of using it. It's got to be to meet a need. And one need that I think Twitter is actually great for is to get students to learn some content from experts themselves by tweet the expert. Send a message to, as a psychologist, I think of like Steven Pinker is a famous psychologist, and he's very active on Twitter. And so one of my kids tell my students, tweet some questions at him and see if you can get some answers. And you're going directly to this specific person, to this source. And if you ask a good question, they'll respond back, and it can get you involved. Another way you can do that is when there's conferences or hashtags that are getting a lot of good communication going, get them to get involved in those communications that way and collaborate with people outside of their class a little bit. And then, again, maybe they're getting the knowledge, and then they practice with it in the discussion board, like you said, or somewhere in an assignment, and that's what you assess. So it's more about, instead of reading the text, you go and look up stuff on Twitter, or you look at another, engage with people that way and get some more information from another source. So that's one idea.
So as opposed to giving them the hashtag that they go into, they would find the Twitter their own Twitter hashtag that related to the course materials and share that in the classroom somehow.
That could work, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, so Trey, tell me something. I mean, because this is Paul, I've not taught a class yet, but it sounds like you guys do classes the same way we do, where you upload the content and it's pretty well locked down. So how does utilizing the social media and having them go do this extra stuff fit in with your course template being locked down and the extra credit question comes up, the whole thing?
Sure. So we are, and Maura, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but we are hoping to give a little more freedom as we move forward. And with that, that can be an opportunity to do some of these things, to get them involved, to get them engaged. And it doesn't, with Twitter, with Facebook, with blogging, there's different routes we can take. We can do it's an option, it's an additional tool, an additional resource, or it's a requirement. With the additional tool there, it's about encouraging and giving them those options. And I think that's a great place to delve deeper into content, delve deeper into those current events, putting in an announcement to say, hey, check out this on Twitter, check out this link or even just like, I found this, someone posted this on Twitter and it's a link, it's a good quality resource. So you can share them that way and getting them engaged with these ideas, getting them engaged with social media in another way. And it may be something that they connect with more than they would in their email or something like that. I don't know if that answered your question completely, but and Maura, am I right to say that we're loosening the reins a little bit?
I think you're right about that. We're trying to figure out how and what makes sense. Paul, I would say that probably any kind of curricular change would be worked through the respective program director. So if Carrie and Dawn, who are two women that I have teaching biology for me, the same course right now, and I know they've collaborated to some extent, if they were to approach me and say, hey, we have an idea for a different type of assignment, we really think there's a lot going on in biology. We want the students to be able to tweet the experts, and do you think we could work that into an assignment? Then that's an option as well. And Paul, are you in the business field? Are you going to be teaching business courses?
He's actually with me, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just going to mention that our business director, Stephen Brand, is particularly keen on having faculty, as the reins loosen here a little bit on content, bring in current day happenings into the course, and so social media may be a way to do that. He wants to bring in relevant conversations. So say you're teaching a class in I don't know, operations management or something like that, and you want to talk about who is it that's trying to buy Allergan? Is it Pfizer and Allergan? With that whole idea of offshoring, they're going to send over the operations basically over to Ireland, or they won't have to pay U.S. taxes or something like that. Well, anyway, you get the point. The point is just a small example of a way that we could use something current
Sure.
to enhance our learning, student learning.
Listen, I understand completely about that because we're in the same boat. I've got almost 400 adjunct faculty working with me, and those people can be crazy at times. What they do. So I'm not going to go messing with the curriculum. I can see a good application with these things inside the discussion board, perhaps. Although I've not been in Canvas yet. I'm still waiting on access. It should be coming pretty soon. But I could see it adding a great deal to the discussion, having them go out and pull in additional information and have the class discuss it even within the discussion board.
Right, exactly. Or maybe even, and this relates kind of to the virtual learning community concept that I was talking about earlier, and because now I just thought of an example, and it comes from the biology class. The other biology teacher who's teaching with Carrie mentioned to me that week 1 discussion questions seemed fine, but week 2, it was a big leap in terms of what the students needed to do, their level of biological thinking in order to answer that question. and she said they really probably needed to go and find outside sources. So that could be an example of a way that they could use a, Facebook or a virtual learning community embedded within the classroom to say, hey, I found this resource to answer question 2, or that kind of thing.
Or like a way to
sharing
share it
what
with
they
other
find.
students.
Exactly.
Like maybe a what works for me in the classroom, like a week, like another, each week there would be maybe a discussion about what worked, how were you able to, incorporate outside resources to address the lab or address the assignment. Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I like the way you're phrasing that right now, Carrie, because I like the whole concept of metacognition and how it helps student learning, so having them reflect on why they were able to learn or what they were able to learn, why this resource was useful in their learning and that kind of thing.
And I think, too, you have to give them, like, some, with discussion boards, I think it's important that you give them a direct question. And when they reply, they have to also, they can provide their opinions and back up their opinions, back up their thoughts. But when they do, they have to use scholarly sources to do that. They have to list them appropriately, and we use APA. I know MLA is really popular too. But not only listing them, but citing them and giving credit to that, and also pictures that they might find. You can't just steal everyone's pictures and just put them into an assignment or whatever without giving credit. And I've had a lot of students that don't realize that they even need to, cite something. Wiki, I tend to stay away from Wiki, but I'm trying to open up a little bit more to it as a way for students to explore options and then go from there. So Wiki is kind of becoming like a stepping stone for finding resources for students. But I don't see it as being a scholarly source where they can cite Wiki.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the whole netiquette. There's got to be a guideline, if you're, also when you're discussing, in a discussion setting, there's got to be netiquette. And it seems like this semester I've got some folks that are quoting the Bible. And it's, there's netiquette involved, and, this is not the time or the place to, to discuss this. How do you handle that? So maybe there should be like, a sheet of paper, like this is what we're going to do in social media. These are acceptable. These are not acceptable. Like maybe make some examples up. And, some of these students, these ladies haven't seen, an example of what, how it should be done when they're discussing things. It's not, it's casual, but it's got to be professional.
Any other ideas or questions for Carrie?
This is Peter. I think that the idea of that we looked at there about collaboration is a good thing. The idea that students could collaborate with an expert or tweet a question to an expert. I think that would be interesting. My field is religion and philosophy,
Okay.
also ethics. But there's, of course, a lot going on in the news about religion and philosophy. And if they could ask somebody and they would get a response, I think that would broaden everybody's outlook on whatever we're talking about.
And then share that in a discussion.
Yeah.
It'd be like a bonus. They wouldn't have to do it, because then how do you grade that?
I'd have to ask Mara how you would grade a bonus. I don't know how that fits in with our rubric, but it might just be that in the discussion, maybe their normal grade would be 50, or the normal grade would be, say, 45, but if they brought in something that would benefit everybody, they'd get an extra 5 points. Is that possible, Mara?
This is where it gets a little complicated, and because I know, Peter, you're going to be teaching some courses in the study, and I would say it's absolutely not allowed for sections that you're going to be teaching for the study, because student grades, is one of the outcomes that we're going to be looking at, and if it were offered to treatment group but not the control group. That would confound
yeah.
the results and that
Oh.
kind of thing.
Sure.
So, you know, and I know, Carrie, you've gone through the KP training, I believe now, right?
Yes.
You know, so that's what we're really trying to test, KP, and we don't want to have any of this confounded by, well, they got a social media assignment, you know, for 50 bonus points and that boosted their grade or that kind of thing. So I wouldn't say that it's not doable. I would just say, you know, especially if you're teaching, you know, in the study, it really needs to be cleared through the program director.
Sure.
I would be able to help you figure out mathematically, you know, looking at gradebook, how you can make an extra, say, 50-point or 100-point assignment and then get the math to work, you know,
Okay.
and that kind of thing. So, so if you have any specific thoughts, I would say, you know, why don't you run them by me, or as you're going through and looking at course content and that kind of thing, if you have any ideas, you know, float them my way and we'll see what we might be able to incorporate.
Okay. I'd like the idea in the beginning of looking at TED, having the students look at maybe, see, I don't even know what the word hashtag means. Does that just mean a site to look at?
It's if you have a hashtag, you know, if it's hashtag biology,
Yeah.
you know, what I do is like, you know, they're all biology topics. So you don't have to do a search in Twitter. You just type in that hashtag in the search engine and it comes up all the different topics.
Yeah, it's kind of a way for people on Twitter to kind of group things together. So like anybody, so if I was tweeting something about biology, you know, I could just put hashtag biology, and then anybody who looked up that hashtag would find what I said, as well as anybody else who put hashtag biology at the end. So again, it's just a way to group things together.
Can you
Let me
make
see.
that more specific? I mean, biology is a pretty big topic.
Yeah, so you could
So
do,
right,
go ahead.
do you see the screen right here, the Facebook and Twitter?
Yes.
See, this right here is a hashtag. This is one that I created. So hashtag, it's like the pound sign, the All Women's College Biology. You know, this is not in use right now. Some hashtags have already been used, so then you would come up with a different one. And this right here is like, you know, if you were to open up Twitter,
Yeah.
you've got a place right here that you can do a search, and if you put in that hashtag, anybody that has contributed to this specific hashtag related to biology is going to become available to you once you do that search. So, you know, in this case, I mean, anybody could put something in there related to, you know, biology from like another school, but why would they go to hashtag TAWC? You know, they would just hashtag biology. Right now, there is nothing in here, so it would be like a starting point where you can, you know, and it never goes away. You know, that again, I guess, is a good way to categorize sites too. Pull up a hashtag and look for links that people found in the past, and you can pull from those. I mean, it doesn't disappear.
Yeah. In my discussion with my students right now in philosophy, what they do is they put in links that say, this was very interesting and I learned more about Freud at this particular site. Is that something they would add to this hashtag? For example, if it was TAWC philosophy?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could even specialize it, you know, just to your specific class if you wanted, but I think it'd be a great idea for all classes, you know, that are like the same philosophy class. They can all contribute to it. So then you've got students from multiple classes, which I think kind of makes the classes all seem the same. Not like if you take it with so-and-so, this is what to expect, versus if you take it with so-and-so, this is what to expect. You're all
Right.
sharing the same, you know, the same social media site too.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea.
I mean, I use it. One of my I teach a mammology class, so it's like this hashtag mammology, and you go in there, and it's just all these different links, current research in mammology. So it's like, oh, gee, what was that link? Well, go hashtag it, look through everything, and you'll find it. So yeah, that's a way of organizing, I guess, too. You could have biology, you could have philosophy, you could have, you know, chemistry, anything you wanted,
So
as
at
long as
your
it hasn't been taken.
yeah, at your TAWC biology would you list things uh, by the person that invented them or that found them, or how would you do that?
What do you, by the
In
person?
other words, like let's say Freud would be listed, everything that Freud wrote might be listed under Freud, or a specific person who was commenting on Freud, they might say, watch this 5-minute video, it's excellent to explain this aspect of Freud.
Okay, well, one thing about Twitter is it really limits conversation. I think there might only be, is it 20 words? I forget. So you really can't have a lot of conversation. What is it?
140 characters. So it's like,
100. Okay.
so you know, a letter is a character, a space is a character. So you have 140 total.
Wow.
So what, if you found a link, you could copy that link.
Yeah.
Most links now allow you to share. So you could share that directly to Twitter, and as you're sharing it, you can include this hashtag. And that hashtag can go at the beginning of what you're copying, in the middle of what you're copying, at the end of what you're copying. But if that hashtag is somewhere in what you're copying, it's going to go into that site.
I see.
I mean, I've had a lot of students, they find an article like, wow, this is great, and then they, share to Twitter. Or if they're reading somebody else's Twitter, like, wow, this is great, they retweet it, as long as you include that hashtag in there.
So in terms of, one of the things about discussion is that each student has to contribute so many comments to other students on what they've written. Maybe Facebook would be a better place to go if you could only put in 140 characters on Twitter. That's pretty limited.
Well, my experience using Facebook, they don't have a lot of conversation. I mean, the students go in, they find a link, they share it to Facebook, the instructor will make some comments, other people that are in the course might chime in too, but it's not a huge discussion thread.
Okay.
So that might eliminate some of the fear of, oh my gosh, all these words and discussions, and so there might not be a lot of feedback. There might be a lot of people like stuff. They're not going to comment as much. You can see who has looked over the article. And again, that you can make that closed. You can make it private so that only. And I don't know how to do all that, to be honest. Like, what's the difference between a private and a closed? So that would be something to look into as well. But yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole. I mean, we could make it so there'd be a lot of conversation in a Facebook discussion group. But again, you don't want to overwhelm the students with having to do this extra stuff on a social media site, plus having them do the stuff in the classroom.
Yeah, it comes back to filling a need. So if you have a specific need, and social media is a great way to get there, do it. Otherwise, if the discussion that they already have to use is a better option, don't force it with social media. That would be my advice.
Okay. Good.
Any other questions or comments?
I don't think Freud would have done well with 140 characters.
No, definitely not.
Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I'm going to finish up the recording and we'll kind of sign off. Thank you guys for attending. I'm going to figure out how to make this recording available to everyone in a way that you don't have to download the whole thing. So hopefully something that's easily accessible via a link, and I'll send that out to you guys as well as to the rest of the faculty that weren't able to attend, because I know a few people were interested but weren't able to be here.
Well, wait, I'm going to go ahead and email you the PowerPoint too.
Great.
Yes.
You'll have that.
So that'll probably be coming tomorrow sometime. So just keep an eye on your email, and otherwise have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Okay.
All
Same
right.
to you guys. Thank you so much.
You all too. Thanks so much, Carrie, for leading this.
You're welcome.
You.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.